Like
live na
that.
natin. Para happy. Grabe. Long time no see, boys.
Oh, it has been crazy, Ron. It has been crazy
I know.
for
Oo
the
nga.
past few months. Grabe. Ever since the year turned. Grabe. And then, wild shit. Oh, we can curse here, no?
Of course.
MTRCB, MTRCB.
Ayan, yung ano nyo, yung link.
Alright.
Yan.
Ano ba ito? Ano gawin
Ayan,
natin?
Long time no see, sabi ni Jaira. Or
Oo nga.
Jaira. Cool, dude. Yeah, syempre, no worries, man. Pa-shout out daw. That's exactly what we're gonna do in the beginning. So, okay rin sumagot ka agad si Doc Bevs. Yung
Yes.
ating resident
That's
doctor
awesome.
from DOH. So meron siyang mga few things na she wants to say. Although medyo magiging maganda yung conversation natin ito, Mikel, kasi pag binasa ko yung mga messages niya, malamang marami kang masasabi doon.
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
I brought my COVID anxiety with me, so let's do this.
Check ko lang yung ating background music if it's working. Hang on. Alrighty. Alright. Let me know kung wala kayong naririnig.
So far, wala.
So far, wala, no?
Oh, except
Ito,
your very
Sexy
macho
voice.
voice.
Yeah.
Ito.
Wala.
Wala?
Super faint lang.
Faint? Fudge.
Binato mo kasi yung mouse mo tuloy.
Baka dahil sa mouse yan.
Clumsy,
Or baka,
dude.
baka parehong performance issues tulad ng Liverpool, di ba?
Ito. Yeah. Yeah, meron?
Wala.
Wala pa rin. Fudge. Naka-quit. Quit. Alright. Isip ng katapat niya ni. Yun ang style dyan.
Iham ko na lang, Ron.
The best ka talaga, Rick. The best ka. Ito. Kung meron.
Wala pa. Nothing yet.
Wala?
Wala.
Wala pa rin?
Wala. Nothing.
What's the matter?
Alam mo yung
Kaya
pang-specialist.
Kaya pala, buwisit. Yun, okay na.
Ano?
Ito. Yan, meron?
Wala.
Super hina, as in like in the background, I can hear it.
Super hina.
Lately, yung mga stress relievers ko si Dave Chappelle tsaka si Bill Burr sa Netflix.
Solid yun.
Yun yung pang ko. Ayaw ko mag-isip. Alam mo yun.
Game na. Bahala na yung background music. Pahintayin.
Game. Original.
Yun! Na-miss ko na tong Tito music na to.
Oo nga.
Ito music. Nangyari ka pa dyan.
I don't even have this on my playlist.
Exactly. Ano ba yan?
Okay, guys. Magandang gabi. Welcome to Istoryang Futbolero on a Monday night. My name's Ron Poblete. With me are the two original members of Istoryang Futbolero who've been gone for a long time because they've been very busy. Alam mo naman, kailangan kumayod ngayong panahon ng pandemya. Eric Madraso and Mikel Pares of Auntie Anne's are with us tonight on Istoryang Futbolero! Cool.
Hello.
Kamusta guys? Kamusta? Anong
Ay,
balits?
ako. Busy.
Kasi,
It has been crazy nga, as I mentioned sa work. Kasi nga naghahabol and everything, and ito pa, ang daming mga issues, and COVID cases is starting to get closer to home. It's starting to hit
I'm
closer
sure,
to
man.
home. Yeah. So,
Pero Rick, it doesn't seem like you're busy kasi a few weeks ago, nag-around the Philippines ka. Uh, you did it in what? In a span of a week? You went to Davao and then back to Manila. Solid, bro.
di naman. Siguro, took me yung mga 9 days.
Wow.
Kasi I stayed
9
for
days.
I stayed for 4 in 4 or 5 days. I stayed for 4 days in Davao and then 1 day in Cagayan de Oro. I went back. So two
Galing
days,
nga
2
eh.
days yung trip ko.
Road trip lahat yan, guys. By car yan.
Yeah, si Eric meron siyang YouTube channel. If you want to see or check out his trip to Davao City and back, kasi I'm sure not everyone can do that. Let alone si Eric by himself, no? Mag-isa lang siya, nag-drive. From Siraulo to si Eric eh.
Yes, sabi niya. Bro, sabi niya lang yun, mag-isa siya. Sabi niya lang yun.
Gago ko lang mag-isa nun.
May ganun ba dapat?
My video.
Wink. May kasamang wink ba dapat yun?
Ay, may naghahawak ng
Mag-isa.
camera. Sino ba yun?
Oh, sino yun, Rick, ha? Nangiya.
Gago.
Pero
Masaya
one of the things that you look forward to when you travel from Manila to Davao is the San Juanico Bridge. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Ang galing
Definitely.
ng San Juanico Bridge. One of the many few remnants of previous administration that people still up to this day debate about. Kasi sabi nila, during the time of Marcos, marami daw mga infrastructure na nagawa. And then after Marcos, 30 years later, wala masyadong nangyari in terms of infrastructure. Can you imagine, Mikel, di ba, matagal na dapat pinaplano yung interlinked na bridges from Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Kasi yung Sorsogon to, saan ba? To Leyte? Tama ba? Sorsogon to Leyte ba, Rick, or Samar?
Yeah, Samar.
Sorsogon to Samar, then Leyte to Surigao. Right?
Yeah.
So dapat para ma-interconnect lahat ng 3 major islands ay lagyan ng bridge. Tapos hanggang ngayon wala pa rin nangyayaring ganun kahit na siguro may plano pero it hasn't come to fruition because of probably the difficulty and the money that's involved to make that happen. But that's not our topic for tonight, Mikel. I'm sure si Mikel kasi matagal, medyo kanina pa to nang gigigil. Dahil may pandemya nga, di ba? Hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin mag-anniversary na lang Istoryang Futbolero sa April, kailan nga yun? Naalala mo ba?
Paparty tayo.
April 29 yung anniversary ng Istoryang Futbolero, Mikel. Tapos yung anniversary ng guesting ni Mikel is May 2. Nax!
No. Buti ka pa, alam mo
Solid, man. Isang taon na, bro. Isang taon na tayo nagmumukmuk sa Istoryang Futbolero.
Isang taon na wala pa rin kaming endorsements. Ano ba naman to?
Labo talaga, bro. Sabi mo pa naman, after 1 year, talo mo na si James Deacon. Hanggang ngayon, wala pa rin nangyari.
Kahit si Samuel G, hindi ko na nahabol. Ano ba ang klase to? Akala ko pa naman, pwede na ako mag-retire. Ano ba yan?
Oh, man. So anyway, kaya namin naisipang pag-usapan ngayon ang pandemya, ang COVID-19 dahil tumaas yung mga kaso lately at may mga nababahala dahil baka daw magkaroon uli ng lockdown. Gaya lang nangyari last year. So can you imagine the ramifications of that, no? The things that we will go through again. What we went through last year is no joke. Diba? Dapat magtabi ang gobyerno ng pera para sa ayuda, bigyan yung ating mga informal settlers the financial support for them to be able to sustain themselves, na magkaroon ng 2-week lockdown. Sabi nga ng gobyerno, months after the first and second tranche of ayudas that came from the DSWD, na hindi na daw natin ma-afford another round of ayuda. That's why we need to open the economy. And that's exactly what happened in the last few months. Diba? Months after the lockdown, nag-ease yung mga restrictions, and then because we wanted to jumpstart the economy. Unfortunately, there's a new strain na nanggaling sa UK and sa South Africa. Yung South African strain daw ng COVID-19 ay nandito na rin daw sa Pilipinas, pero ina-attribute ng mga experts, our friends from Okta Research, that the reason there's a surge, there is a likelihood that it is caused by the new strain of virus that's arrived here in the Philippines. But of course, Mikel has a lot to say about that, because that's not only the problem that we have right now sa ating hinaharap na pandemya dito sa Pilipinas. Maraming factors, Mikel. You get the ball rolling, Mikel. What's your first issue that you want to discuss tonight?
Okay, first, welcome to all the fans and everybody watching again. Na-miss na namin kayo. Sa totoo lang, di kasi kami binabayaran ni Ron, kaya di kami bumalik ngayon. Mga creative differences. Ganyan talaga sa mga banda, guys, mga famous groups. So, may mga ano kami. Sabi niya, tonight, pag mag-guest daw kami, babayaran kami. But we'll see. Anyway, it's nice to be back. It's a good, busy lang talaga sa work, guys. Siyempre, alam niyo naman, sobrang hirap with the economy, and with Auntie Ants in particular, we have so many things to worry about. So focus muna ako doon. But anyway, so going back, syempre nakakatakot kasi every day na lang now, it's 5,000 plus cases, no? Which talaga mababahala ka kasi just a few weeks ago, it was 1,000, 2,000. Alam mo, parang we had it under control relatively for the longest time. Tapos bigla ngayon, it's like super astronomical spike. Kahit sila Okta Research, di ba, sabi nila, they were expecting 5,000 cases by the end of March or April. Nasa March 15 ba lang tayo, nandun na tayo, no? So nakakabahala talaga. Malungkot din because, like, example lang, my son, he's turning 14 in April. Naalala ko nung last birthday niya nung April, then yung height ng lockdown, tapos parang bibiruan ko, parang sabi, don't worry, next year, we'll have a big party for you, babawi tayo. And then here we are, next year na, parang worse situation than we were last year in terms of cases. Kasi kahit pa paano, before, may lockdown nga, pero konti lang yung mga case. Diba? So parang yung anxiety was not as high. Whereas now, wala nang restrictions. Every day is 5,000 plus cases. Tapos lalabas ka, makita mo lahat ng tao, they're living their lives like parang wala na yung virus. So parang mababahala ka talaga. No? And I totally understand the need for the economy to run. I'll be the first to say, syempre may negosyo, kailangan ko kumita yan. Diba? I need the people to be paid and all that. Yeah. But then, kinakabahan din kami because it's also not good for consumer confidence na, kuwari, everyday nakita mo na sa news na 5,000 cases, ganyan, puno na yung mga hospital. That's also not good for people won't go to the malls or people won't go buying anyway. And even before, I think when bumaba na siya to about 1,000, 2,000 cases, it was okay. People felt parang more confident, no? But now it's gone up again, and syempre kakabahan tayo lahat, and the hospitals are full. So talagang doon ako kinakabahan. I'm okay with cases going up as long as the death rate is low, but the hospital shouldn't be full. At saka also sana kung alam ko lang na parating na talaga yung mga vaccine, then that will give additional comfort. But sadly, I know that the vaccines are not yet here. They hopefully are coming, but we're still behind. No? So yun na nga, rising cases na astronomical, di ba, compared to a few weeks ago lang. Hospitals are full. Sinong hindi mababahala? But sadly, there's still people out there who don't believe in COVID. Believe it or not, ang dami pa rin dyan na conspiracy theories na fake daw yan. Guys, may makilala na akong namatay, may makilala akong nasa ospital. I don't think it's fake. It's very hard to say it's fake. Other people also just compare it to the flu o ganyan. But na-discuss na natin to kay Doc Bev dati, Ron, di ba? Flu. Ilan ba kilala mong namatay from the flu, guys? Like in your whole lifetime, did you ever say, how did you die? Flu. Diba? I've never encountered it. With COVID, it's talagang spreading like crazy, di ba? So there, syempre from our perspective, from a business perspective, we're very nervous. And from a personal perspective, it's so sad because, it's 1 year on and we still can't safely bring our kids out to enjoy, the mental health side of it for the kids. Sinabihan na kami ng school ng mga bata na next year online na naman ng school. Na mas mahal pa ang tuition. so there. Anyway, yun lang. Naglalabas na ako ng sama ng loob, guys.
Pero tama ka, alam mo si Mikel, medyo mabait pa nga yung mga comments na ngayon eh. Very diplomatic. Pero kanina, medyo nagmumura na yan sa aming Viber group. Maniwala ka dyan.
Well,
Talaga kasi itong buhay. Salbahe talaga
kasi
yun.
ma-frustrate ka naman talaga. I mean, there's days na I try to have no COVID anxiety. Pero, it's twofold, no, on this. One, I have some reservations with the way the government is handling it. Now, alam mo naman, big fan ako. I always support and say there's good things. And I think for the longest time with the pandemic, I was one of the most avid defenders. No? But for now, parang I'm just wondering talaga kung ano yung strategy ngayon. Kasi nga, taas ng case, walang vaccine, and we seem to be just, ang mga naging restriction na lang ngayon is the curfew, liquor ban, bawal mag-gym in certain places, but everything else is enough. So there's one, may reservation ako sa government and what they're doing now, only because I don't know what the strategy is. And then two is, actually, sa totoo lang, mas galit ako sa tao. Kasi, alam mo yun, we had the chance to control this and konting tiis na lang, but for some reason, we couldn't really make tiis. Kailangan talaga party galore. Forget the mask. Sinabihan naman tayo, you can go out, enjoy. We're opening up the economy. You can see your family, your friends, but just please wear the mask, social distance. But wala, kita mo na, you just have to look at your timeline. How many people are there partying, big gatherings, no mask, or minsan feeling nila mag-antigen test sila before the gimmick, okay na, which is totally wrong. So yun. So actually, mas may irita ka talaga sa mga tao kasi parang, wow, ano ba yan? And these are the same people who will always be mad at the government pa. Diba? Parang you had a chance, sinabihan ka din. The government's not always there to tell you or make sure you're doing what you're doing. Diba? I mean, hand in hand yan. Diba? And
Nagkakaroon ng bala yung mga viewers natin na galit sa opposition, nagkakabala tuloy yung opposition dahil sa mga problema natin sa pandemya, at alam naman ninyo yung kanilang usual comments on it is gobyerno walang ginagawa.
Well, nakakatawa dyan, Ron. This time last year, remember, nung lockdown, daming galit kasi martial law daw, nakakatakot, di ba? Those same people who are mad at the lockdown are the ones now asking for the lockdown. So it's also weird, you just never know. Di mo alam kung saan ka talaga lulugar, di ba? It's really hard. But then it's just from our perspective lang, it's also hard to watch it because you don't know. Ang taas-taas ng mga case, puno na yung hospital. Like I said in my Viber message kanina, I'm okay with the economy opening up. I'm totally okay. Pero sana we provide more support to the hospitals, the frontliners, kasi kung puno na yung hospital, we all suffer. And also sana we have a better understanding of where the vaccines are and really what the rollout is. Because everybody keeps saying it's there, but it's not there. We've only issued 100-something thousand vaccines to date to frontliners, which I'm grateful for. But that's just the first dose pa lang. And the rest of the people, like yung mga vulnerable, senior citizens, wala pa talaga sila. No? So, yun lang.
Alam mo, very valid yung mga issues mo, Mikel. We, like I told you before, when we regularly have this discussion on our Viber group na Istoryang Futbolero, and I always tell Mikel that, I feel your pain. I can empathize kasi syempre marami tayong mga kilala na tinamaan din ng COVID. At ngayon pa nga, ang balita, even our spokesperson, si Harry Roque, may COVID.
Asymptomatic daw, asymptomatic. Pero si Vico Soto is negative na as of kanina. Pero kawawa, his driver died from it also. So,
kaya nga, di ba? It's so close to home. Even somebody like Vico, who's a big proponent for safety and who's really proactive, here he is, na meron, even yung kanyang close-in, yung kanyang yung driver niya, ay nagkasakit ng COVID at namatay. So hindi natin talaga
Yeah, sa totoo lang, Ron, it's much scary na. Eric mentioned it kanina, it's closer to home, di ba? Kasi like, even sa Antians, ang record namin for the whole year, and this whole thing is wala, we had no COVID, but finally last month, meron na kaming 2 employees that get, not sa stores, obviously. Thankfully, in the stores are very good. But they get it from, kahit gaano kami kaingat, di ba? Siyempre sa mga bahay nila, their other family members are going to work. Doon sila nagkakahawan. And we noticed now with this latest variant, it spreads the whole house. Dati, alam mo yun, ma-isolate mo pa yung tao. Ngayon, it's like, even here sa village namin, may mga tao na buong bahay. I think, wow. And it's really closer to home. I actually know more people now than ever na may COVID or namatay
Yeah.
na from COVID or severely sick. We have so many common friends na have had it already, di ba? Nagka-scare. So, talagang closer to home na siya. Hindi mo na siya, mano. But then, mention dito sa comments na it's like the flu. The flu is there, people will get it, and we understand that as it more and more people open up, more and more people will get COVID, and we do know how to treat it better than we did before. When this was last year, di ba? Syempre bago pa to lahat, nobody knew, di ba? Dati pag dumating yung mga delivery mo sa bahay, grabe, todo Lysol, everything. Ngayon, para sabi ng mga doctor, chill, chill. Hindi na
Hindi
kailangan lahat
rin.
yan, di ba?
I
So,
think
yun nga,
yung
we've
mga doktor
changed.
naman, hindi naman napagod sa kaka-remind sa mga tao. Yung mga tao lang napagod sa kakagawa
Yeah.
ng mga basic guidelines na sinet ng DOH at ng
Yeah.
government at ng
Kasi
kanilang mga doktor.
COVID
Si
fatigue daw, di ba? COVID
COVID
fatigue.
fatigue. Si
Ang
Eric,
pero sadly tayo may COVID fatigue pero si COVID wala siyang fatigue, game on
walang
pa rin.
fatigue
Okay.
si
Yeah.
COVID game pa rin. Ito Rick, itong aking senior na to, nakakatawa man pero it's sort of endemic to may mga problems na may mga reklamo ni Mikel about government policy and people make jokes out of it. Definitely this is being sarcastic. Nalilito ako may curfew sa gabi para daw makaiwas sa COVID-19. Pero sa umaga ang daming tao sa labas. Ano bang virus? Night shift.
Okay. So,
Ikaw,
alam mo yun, whoever made this, papagulo lang talaga siya. And siguro he found humor in it kasi nga it doesn't make sense to him. Pero para sa akin kasi, I've been out. Okay, I've been around the Philippines. I also go to the office and stuff. And napapansin ko, so di ba I bought this motorcycle. So I go out, minsan nagda-night rides ako. So syempre, kasi being on a motorcycle, that's the ultimate siguro social distancing form of transport right now. So umikot lang ako just to clear my head. Alam mo, nakikita ko, nakakatakot lang kasi dumaan ako ng Bonifacio High Street. And dun sa Bonifacio High Street, on a Sunday, nakita ko, ang daming tao, punong-puno siya. Matanda, bata, alam mo yon, babae, lalaki, aso, lahat, nandoon sila lahat. So, iniwasan ko na kasi plano ko sana, mag-coffee doon, sandali, ganun. Pero iniwasan ko na talaga kasi sobrang daming tao. So, anong nangyari, pumunta ako ng, on a Sunday, pumunta ako ng Ateneo banda sa may Katipunan, ganun. Tapos nakita ko rin sobrang traffic, parang ano ba, lahat ng tao na sa labas. So, I wanted to get out, parang gusto kong lumayo. So, isip ko, sige, punta ako ng Tagaytay. Akit ako ng Tagaytay. And by this time, gabi na. Okay. On the way up to Tagaytay, yung sa Santa Rosa Road na paakyat, grabe yung traffic pababa. As in pila. As in super haba ng pila. So I'm like, nakalimutan na siguro ng mga tao that, it's pandemic, kasi nandito nandiyan pa rin yung virus, wala pang vaccine or anything. Hayok na lang talaga siguro silang lumabas at magliwaliw. Alam mo yun? And it's probably the term, no, na mention niyo, COVID fatigue, and they're probably using that term as an excuse to go out and do whatever they want, no. Okay lang naman sa akin to go out, basta lang ako I survived going to Davao and back, land trip. Okay? Tapos pagbalik ko dito, negative pa rin ako. I think you can go out, no, and enjoy life and live with this virus with the right amount of paranoia. Dapat praning ka pa rin. Dapat praning ka pa rin pag lumabas ka. Kasi kung hindi, doon ka tatamaan. Okay? And as I mentioned kanina, it's getting closer to home because my brother in the US nagka-COVID. Alam mo yan? And my cousins in the US nagka-COVID. And may mga staff kami dito sa office nagka-COVID na rin. Okay? So, grabe yung contact tracing namin. So, pag may isang staff at a certain floor na may contact, kunyari, pinsan niya, may COVID, ganun, so may contact siya, buong floor na yan, isolated, bahay na kayo. Stay at home. Tapos, we will wait bago with kung ano yung maging result niya. Kung negative siya, clear kami lahat. Kung
Mm.
positive siya, test kami lahat. Ite-test kami lahat. Alam mo yun? So, hassle siya, really. Kasi para sa akin, staying at home, being, working from home. Actually, itong working from home, may fatigue na rin ako in about working from home eh. Nakakapagod na, men.
Oo,
Parang, I wanna, hmm?
nakakaano rin talaga, ano bang word, bugot? Um, Imagine you in your underwear for a year, for a whole year. Uh,
Hindi naman. Baka ikaw yun. Ako hindi ako
Ngayon,
nag-underwear eh.
hindi,
Hindi ako
tsaka,
nag-
underwear lang ako dito. Hindi nyo ba?
hindi, hindi, at saka alam mo yung, sabi nga sa akin ng isang friend ko na taga Davao, Rick,
Hmm.
before the pandemic, syempre, she's used to working late at night kasi she used to work for a BPO. And so she rarely, or if not, she doesn't see her family all the time. Now that the pandemic happened, work from home, and then she opted to take an early retirement because they were given the choice to stay and be given a shitty position, or leave and then take the retirement money. So
PRP.
she opted for the latter. And then what happened there is she ended up staying at home most of the time because she feels na baka ano rin siya na alam mo may ano siya existing condition. So baka pag tinamaan siya ng COVID, delikado.
Mhm.
So you'd see her like always preparing food for the family, and she rarely did that when she was still working. And she sees them
Yeah.
all the time. So yung proximity, no, yung marati mo nakikita yung pamilya mo na hindi ka sanay na ganun, biglang
Uh,
nagkakaroon ng mga problema, dahil syempre, alam mo naman, familiarity breeds contempt. Yeah.
and that's the thing eh. And that's the thing about this pandemic. A lot of people in the household, they're not getting along also. And there are a lot
Exactly.
naman na mas nagiging okay. I mean, ako personally, kamusta kayo at home? I'm just curious. One
Oh,
year into this pandemic,
why
how
do you
are
think
things?
I'm so stressed? I'm a battered husband. 1 year na ako
Yeah.
Nakikinig ba si Sab ngayon?
Hindi. Busy sa taas si Ma'am Sab.
Uh,
Nagtatrabaho. So,
Busy ba? Busy ba?
kaya confident. This is my cry for help habang di siya nakatingin, guys.
Battered husband.
Yeah,
and
there's a
that's the
lot
thing eh.
mo.
Oy, may nag-comment oh. Ay nako, patay tayo dyan.
Oy, kala mo lang.
I am not
Kala mo,
battered.
ha?
I'm a very happy husband. I,
Kala,
walang black eye. Naka-cover tayo.
Naka, naka-foundation.
Uy,
Oh,
Sab,
concealer
grabe.
pala, concealer.
kala ko
Mikkel,
nagtatrabaho ka,
grabe.
Sab. Grabe.
Just when I
Yeah,
thought you know your wife so well, mukhang hindi
Wala.
yata totoo yun. Mukhang,
Paano nalaman nagbablog ako? There's a spy. There's a spy in this house.
hi Sam.
I'm gonna lock the door. Wait for my own
Ayun.
yeah,
safety, bro. But tama ka, Rick, diba? There's lots of people. It's hard. You've been together in one house,
yeah,
for
it
so
is hard.
long. But yung pinaka nakakaawa talaga for me, I mean, apart from us, are the kids. No, kids kasi for their
Yeah,
mental health. Imagine 1 year they haven't seen most of the kids that they haven't seen their classmates or had any sort of interaction. Those are the ones that even the doctors are saying that there's lots of episodes of depression with kids in
yeah,
particular. So ako naawa na ako sa mga anak ko kasi that's why I want to get the vaccine so that I can go out. My son wants me to get the vaccine so I can go out and he can meet his friends again. Ano ba, syempre, the kids kasi less risk naman talaga sila, di ba? Once you know the senior citizens, the vulnerable, have been vaccinated, mas comfortable ka, di ba? So
yeah.
anyway, kawawa yung mga bata kasi they really haven't been able to go out. And I was
Sabi
really
ni,
hoping that it would be better na. Ayan.
may
In
mga
Singapore,
comments na tayo
normal.
from our viewers here. Sabi ni Gray Mendez, dito sa Singapore, life is normal, but with mask in public, we work 50% in the office and 50% at home. As cases is so far today is 17, all imported from out of the country. Wala kasing walang case na galing from inside the
Local.
local community. It's just discipline and following the rules, and everyone is doing their part. Especially, yan,
The
that's
government
where
is doing their job.
the message. And
17 lang buong bansa, isang village lang dito, 17
wild man,
Oh,
see,
actually,
sabi
ang
niya,
Singapore, maliit lang din naman siya. So, but you know,
meron din akong masasabi about dyan, no,
siguro
yung
dun sa proportion.
how Singapore is doing it. Obviously, may kinalaman rin doon yung disiplina ng mga tao sa Singapore. I feel that government and people has nothing to blame here. It's just the nature of the virus. I've seen people that are very protected or paranoid still get COVID. And I see government like here in Texas that is very well prepared and responsive, like free COVID testing sites in all mall parking lots, pharmacies, and some gas stations. Free vaccines and development of antiviral drugs, but still has surmounting number
Number
of
of
COVID cases. We just
cases.
need to have faith to the government on what they are doing. Thank you,
Yeah.
Aram from Texas. May mga international viewers tayo. Salamat sa
Yeah.
inyong mga
Ron, sabi
pakinig.
pala sa amin ng doctor namin, company doctor, that a lot of the transmission daw, well, especially in the workplace and other places, is from eating together. So like sa mga offices, kasi generally people wear the mask naman, di ba? So it's very
Yes.
low risk of transmission pag may mask. But then, pagka lunch break na or coffee break or whatever, bababa na yung mask, they eat together, and that's when you have some transmission. Even like for going out sa mga restaurants, it's safe naman if you're wearing your mask for the most time, but the prolonged exposure with somebody na wala kayong mask, doon kayo madadali talaga for sure.
I think ano rin yan, Miguel, very simple lang yung transmission. I think kasi very social yung mga Pilipino, di ba? We are very attached to our families and friends, and every time we get a chance to get get in touch or to catch up with them, we do. Lalong-lalo na sa bandang huli ng ating pandemic kasi medyo lax na nga at very confident tayo that we don't have it, and then we start seeing people that we miss. Punta tayo sa bahay ng ating tita, ng ating mga magulang or ating mga pinsan, and then syempre when you're with your family, you feel safe and you feel confident that they don't have COVID. Kasi may familiarity. So kaya nga 'di ba, ang sabi nga yung transmission nga nangyayari sa bahay dahil masyado tayong confident with each other na wala tayong COVID. Tapos ngayon yung mga office mates natin, pag nagtitipon-tipon, kumakain, tanggal ang mask, kwentuhan, and then before you know it, meron ng COVID yung isa. Actually, Mikel, meron akong kasamahan. Ang nangyari, she went out with a few friends on a Monday. 2 days later, she had COVID. And 2 of her friends also had COVID. And now she's having a hard time breathing. She sent us pictures of herself like in a oxygen mask. At hirap siyang huminga.
It's scary because if you do get it, that's why people sometimes they say, wala lang, it's just like the flu. But I know people na relatively healthy, they get it, nahirapan sila. So hindi mo talaga alam yung lottery. Tapos may isa pa nag-argue din sa akin na okay lang yan, you know why? If 2% death rate is so small and we shouldn't stop the rest of the Philippines from moving because of this. But ang sabi sa akin ng doctors about it is, yeah, that's true. But imagine if the COVID spreads so much. Yung 2% na yan will be much, much higher. Plus, the hospitals are full. So kahit gano'n na tayo kagaling to treat COVID now, if there's no space in the hospital, well, you're gonna die. Diba? And that's the problem now is if you have an elderly relative or whatever, kuwari, parents nyo, touch wood, kailangan mo dalhin sa Makati Med Asian, wala silang, you cannot bring them anywhere. And they will die, and that's the scary part for me. But then going back dun sa mga mask, the exposure part is even sa pagko-contact tracing kasi, like si Eric sa office nila, one of the things the doctor always says to us is, kuwari, may nalaman ka may COVID sa office, they ask you, how long was your exposure with that other person? Were you wearing a mask and everything? If you were wearing a mask, as minimal lang, okay lang, proceed as normal, no? But if, kuwari, alam mo in your head, actually, nag-coffee kami, siguro mga 20 minutes yun, nakababa yung mask ko, wala na, delix ka na kaagad. The exposure will be much, much higher. But also, people think sometimes that just because nasa outdoor setting kayo, okay lang, hindi na kailangan mag-mask, there's still risk, di ba? And if you go to this mall, like, dito sa Molito, sa Alabang, Ron, punong-puno dyan pala. Even this weekend, punong-puno dyan. Considering na 5,000 cases, di ba, grabe, punong-puno. I mean, good. It's good for the businesses. It's good for restaurants. I'm so happy that people are able to support local businesses. But yun lang, parang wala na, pinabayaan na. Just let it spike and yun na lang. Hindi ko na alam gagawin ko.
So ito guys, so when Mikel brought up this his issue about COVID, the cases going up in the last couple of weeks. So napilitan akong i-message si Doc Beverly ng DOH. Yung director po siya ng Department of Health sa kanilang communications. At
The best.
binigyan niya ako ng mga few things that we can discuss tonight sa Istoryang Futbolero na mga ginagawa ng gobyerno ngayon. So basically, kung pag-usapan natin yung problema na sinasabi ni Michael about sa issue natin ng COVID ngayon, you can break it down to different parts, no, very small parts, like first of all, government action, yung ginagawa ng mga tao, yung ating habits, nagbago ba? Are we careful enough? Which obviously it doesn't seem that way kasi yun na, medyo tumataas yung kaso. At yung moving forward, yung vaccination. Kasi yung vaccination is key. Nasabi nga ni Mikel, it's not enough, although we've had 100,000 plus inoculations that happened in the span of 2 to 3 weeks. Medyo okay na yun compared to other countries. Medyo yung kabilang yung opposition, masyado nilang minamaliit yung ating vaccination program. But the truth is, we're not kulelat. Even in the UK daw, Mikel, nababagalan ng mga tao doon sa proseso ng vaccination.
But let's put it this way, Ron. Everybody I know in England, my family there, they've all been vaccinated.
All ba?
So, yes, all, whether matanda, bata. So I have my cousins I have a cousin who's only 38, healthy. She was vaccinated already.
Kaso Mikel, lockdown pa rin sa England, sa UK.
Actually, this week they're starting school, and then I think next week or in a few weeks it's gonna be announced and no more restrictions.
No, here's the thing also.
Wala pa rin tao sa mga stadiums. Wala pa rin nanonood sa...
They've vaccinated a lot of people there already. With the actually, this England, it's weird because my mom and dad, they live in the same house. They go to the same clinic. 1 week apart yung vaccination nila. My mom was given Pfizer, and then the next week yung dad ko AstraZeneca, and it's the same place. So, and they were given their vaccine gabi na or whatever. You just have to go there. So they're really talagang around the clock. Almost 24 hours yung vaccination. Yung isa kong tito naman, birthday niya today, he went to get a vaccine. But they are, and even in the States, I know people 20 years old, healthy, who've been vaccinated. And my frustration with the government here is that I know they keep saying kasi we're a poor country. One, we're not a poor country. Two, there are many other poorer countries than us that already have vaccines, or they're even like Thailand, we're relatively close to Thailand. Thailand, wala nga silang COVID, may mga vaccine na sila. Di ba? So, sobrang yabang nga ni Thailand, pinospone pa nila AstraZeneca nila kasi nga may concern sila with the, AstraZeneca. It's just that, I understand where the government said at least we vaccinated some people. But compared to many other nations, I think we could do better. And it'd be wrong for me to sit here and say we should be happy with what we have so far. Because we have a lot.
I wanna share also na I saw this video and this report regarding the UN complaining to the Western countries na nag-hoard sila ng COVID vaccines. No, like 70% or 80% to that matter were purchased by Western countries. No, mainly the US, probably Canada, and probably Canada's probably apologetic about it, and the UK, no? So, bakit daw majority ng vaccines napunta sa kanila tapos hindi equitable yung pag-distribute ng vaccines to the other countries, to the poorer countries?
Sila kasi gumawa eh.
I think that's one of the problems here that we have also, the distribution, right? And probably someone in the government here in the Philippines dropped the ball. I won't name names. But
well, Eric, okay. Ron, I-defend ko lang. So the rumor lang. Rumor. First is that it was already offered to us before and we turned it down. Not turned it down, but we weren't agreeable to the payment terms, i.e. we didn't want to pay first. Okay, that was one of the things I heard from very reputable sources. Two, ang binabato sa atin palagi is the Dengvaxia issue, and then the
Yeah.
indemnity clauses. But indemnity clauses for vaccines are standard. That's been going on
Yeah,
around. And the thing
of
is,
course. Yeah.
okay, if there was an issue with indemnity clauses and all that, obviously we've been able to fix it because now we're able to order, but late
Yeah.
in the day, no? So I'm saying we could have fixed this sooner.
Mm.
If we knew this was a problem because of Dengvaxia before, then I think we could have arranged it quicker. But the thing is, like, there are other countries that have less COVID cases, but mas nauna sila to get their vaccines than us, or they
Yeah.
already have a better program in place. And we are a very, a progressive nation. We have money. And then even the way this vaccine is, I've heard so many stories in the past week pa lang of mga people trying to sell vaccine, or people na una sa listahan to get, ano yung mga ganun. Dito lang sa Pilipinas nangyayari yan eh. Because there's really, I'm not gonna say the DOH is not doing its job. So the DocBev are amazing, they're really good. But the simple fact of the matter is we don't have vaccines, and we're not gonna
Yeah.
get any anytime soon. And if we cannot say the US, they've hoarded for sure. Kasi nga, di ba, sa news yung
Yeah.
isang araw, meron silang extra na AstraZeneca nakatenga lang sa warehouse, ayaw nila ibigay sa tao. Like, God damn it.
Actually, Mikel,
Pati nga, di ba?
my brother went to the US a week ago. And ngayon, vaccinated siya.
Di ba? I mean,
As a
like,
tourist, ha? As a
exactly. Like,
visitor.
ako, sinabihan na ako ng family ko. My family is fighting with me because they want me to go to the UK to get a vaccine, right? Because I'm also British citizen. But then, one, you have
Yeah.
to go there. There's a risk of going there. Tapos, two, you have two doses yan. Ano, maghihintay ako dun 2 buwan. Wag na. And I don't want to leave also my relatives here who are older. Di ba, kawawa din naman. No? But for me,
Yeah.
Ron, ang target ko lang really, as much as possible, is the frontliners and the vulnerable. Everybody else can follow later on. That's okay.
Yeah.
Ma-prioritize kasi millions din yan eh. We cannot really celebrate 100 something thousand. Great, meron tayong na-donate na 100 something thousand. But still, we need millions. We need 70 million to get herd immunity. Plus,
Yeah.
there's questions now because we have the Philippine variant, kung gagana ba siya or what. Tapos, remember all the people sinisiraan si Sinovac the last time? Ngayon, people will bite your arm off if you give them Sinovac. I'll take
Yeah.
Sinovac. Di ba? Ang dami mga ganyan eh. Tapos ang
Yeah.
dami
Yeah,
mga
as a
nagbebenta.
Tapos
matter of fact,
yung
Miguel,
question
there's
ko ngayon, yung Astra.
actually may article na
Di ba?
lumabas nga from no other than surprisingly it came from the New York Times. There was a write up about Sinovac that
And
you know
Sputnik, di ba?
in Sputnik
And
that they're
Sputnik.
actually effective.
Yeah.
So itong scare tactic ba to or binabad press nila yung Chinese and
Just
Russian
because it's from China. Lahat ng vaccine na kinuha mo
vaccines?
as a child is from China. Yung Sinovac na yan, they've been producing all these
Yeah.
vaccines for so long. But like what the doctors say, Doc Bev said this and everybody else, Doc Edsel, if kung wala kayong tiwala sa amin, for sure, dapat wala kayong tiwala sa amin. Pero kay Doc Edsel, maniwala kayo. The best vaccine is the one offered to you, the one that's there available because they all prevent serious disease,
Yes.
serious COVID, and death. I mean, what else could you ask for, di ba? I mean, sometimes kasi say, 97%, 96%. Yung media naman kasi walang kwenta din tong media everyday, sinisiraan yung mga vaccine.
Oh, tsaka ang
Di ba?
issue nga ng isang kaibigan ko about the way the media, talks about or reports the cases is most of the time ang kanilang headline is the total number of cases so far. And then yung gaano kadaming cases during the week. Pero hindi nila masyadong ina-highlight yung ilang naka-recover, ilang hindi na.
Ron,
Diba?
nobody wants to hear good news. Ano ka ba? How dare you?
How dare you, Ron?
We have to be scared every single day.
Integrity of Philippine media.
You have to
sabi
be,
nga ni,
you have to be
sabi ni
scared
Julio
for your
30,
life.
ito nga Mika, sabi ni Julio 30, pinopolitika kasi ang bakuna. May mga pro sa ganitong brand, may iba
Yeah.
ito gustong brand. Ang nagkaroon ng xenophobia pa dahil sa xenophobia ay ayaw nila magpaturok ng Sinovac. Kung isipin mo, mas safe pa yung Sinovac kaysa doon sa Astra. Based on the findings and also the reports coming from from our
And
broadsheets,
it
no,
was
na
it was tested on healthcare workers in Brazil, diba? It was one of the only ones that was actually tested on healthcare workers. But at the end of the day, they all prevent here, so take whatever you can get. But the
yeah.
other concern lang then with this mga vaccine, which we discussed with Doc Bev the last time, Ron, is kahit dumating pala lahat yan bukas, madami pa rin ayaw magpabakuna. Diba?
Okay lang. I'll take that.
Diba?
Hindi, kaya,
Diba?
kaya
I'll
ngayon
take
yung
that.
DOH, ang DOH ay
More for
part ng
us.
kanilang campaign. Di ba nagkaroon sila ng BIDA campaign, BIDA solution. Ngayon may
Uh,
dinagdag sila doon sa kanilang BIDA messaging. Kasama na
ano,
doon ay uh, anong
ano
res
na siya,
bakuna.
porbida na. Porbida.
Res bakuna. Tawag nila res bakuna.
Rest bakuna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Res
Oh,
bakuna, di ba? Okay, anyway, yung sabi ko nga si Doc Bebs nagpadala ng
Oh yeah.
response
So
doon sa mga tanong
reassure me with
ni
Doc
Mikel.
Bev. It would have been better if it was Doc Bev telling me instead of you, Ron. But I'll accept it. Sige.
I know ang problema ni Doc Bebs, gusto sana niyang mag-guest sa ating programa ngayong gabi kaso lang grabe swamp talaga siya this week, ibang klase. Kasi
yeah.
sino daw si Yusek Berheri yata yung kanyang one of I think her relative is has contracted COVID. So may problema. So I think she's sort of like taking care of the affairs of the use of the undersecretary. So yun yung kaya masyadong busy si Doc Bebs ngayon. So pinadala na lang niya yung response sa mga tanong queries ni ni Mikel.
Thank you, Doc
So ito
Bev.
Mikel, I don't know if you see this, if you can, ito I'm just sharing to you what she said. Sabi niya, let's start with letter A. Merong three-pronged approach to ang government ngayon. Para lang alam ng mga iba, no, yung mga nanonood, mga viewers, so kung pag tinanong ka ng mga dilawan, wala namang ginagawa gobyerno, ito yung sasagot ninyo. Which I know for a fact, no, kasi I was part also of this campaign when COVID started last year. But these things are still ongoing, by the way. Kaso na nga, meron tayong problema. First, syempre, merong mga systemic issues that apparently hasn't been fixed yet. And number two, yung mga tao na ating tinutulungan, yung ating nire-remind na sundin itong mga basic guidelines ay medyo naging lax na rin. Nagkaroon pa tayo ng issue na ibang variant of COVID na ang nandito sa Pilipinas, mas infectious na siya at mas delikado. So yun din ang naging cause, according to Okta, ng surge sa number of infections of COVID-19. So ito mga sinabi ni Doc Everly. Number
That's pretty
one.
lengthy, sagot niya. Yung
Oh,
sagot
ito yung
niya
mga
sa'yo.
sagot niya. Ito yung
Galing,
three-pronged approach ng government ngayon para naintindihan po ng mga ating mga kababayan, ating mga viewers. Number one, meron tayong approach at the LGU level.
Okay.
Ang tinatawag nilang code. So, yung code, our local government units have the ability to curb and reverse the observed trends. So basically, yung mga LGUs are empowered by the national government. That's why, nung pinapag-usapan yung mga lockdowns and yung kagaya nung mga curfews, pinaubayan na yan ng IATF sa local government, whatever means necessary sa tingin nila that works for their particular circumstance, they can apply to their LGU. That's why, kaya nga na-decentralize ngayon yung mga approach to the LGU. So, may
Similar
tinatawag
to what happened a year ago, right?
Yes, so ngayon mas talagang mapapansin mo, bida na ngayon ng mga LGU o yung mga local governments.
Yeah.
Malas mo na lang kung ang mayor mo bano.
Which is most. Linawin natin.
Ngayon, ito yung explain ko lang natin, no? Itong code, this entails a need to exercise executive power to implement localized lockdowns, like I said kanina, and to properly implement our PDITR strategies. Ito yung detect, isolate, trace, and recover, di ba? Ito yung mga may steps na fina-follow yung local government in addressing people who are infected with COVID. Tapos yung yung index case ina-identify nila, ina-isolate nila yung isolated in a facility, and then they test within the next 24 hours. Dito tayo paminsan nagkaka-issue, Mikel, kasi paminsan yung at the local level, walang, how do I put it? Yung mga entrusted to do these things are not as capable as we want them to be. Ideally, hindi ba, sila ay capable. They're supposed to be competent in making sure that they follow all the protocol directed by the local government. Pero paminsan hindi nangyayari yan. So, kaya nagkaka-issue paminsan. Pero pag tinignan mo dito, ito yung dapat ginagawa ng LGU. All close contacts traced and quarantined within the next 24 hours. 100% of cases with symptoms are isolated in a facility within first 24 hours. 100% of those requiring isolation, quarantine, who opt for isolation, quarantine are on households that are eligible for home isolation and quarantine. All close contacts that turn symptomatic are tested using RT-PCR. Begin contact tracing even for suspected cases. So ito pa lang, kumbaga ito yung checklist ng mga ating local government officials na dapat nagagampanan ng ating mga bird, yung ating barangay
Bird. Ayun.
Bert.
Bird.
Yeah, yung ating barangay emergency response team, yung mga tao na in charge of addressing or engaging people who are suspected to have COVID. So ito dapat sinusunod din lahat ng mga bagay na yan. Hindi ko lang alam kung nagagawa nila within 24 hours. Can you imagine if there are like an influx of a number of cases in a barangay? Do you think we have enough people who are dealing with this? Those are the questions.
I doubt it, and I also doubt that they have the facility to do it. No, I mean some LGUs kaya, but then if you think about it, most of it probably nahihirapan dyan. Kasi kahit dito lang, like even sa Muntinlupa, we check the cases, no, like sa Facebook page nila para ma-check namin sa village namin kung ilan yung sa village namin. Pag check mo, delayed lahat. So may mga times na delayed, may mga times naman di rin alam ng village namin na meron na palang case. Nakita namin dun sa Facebook page, alam mo yun, so there's mga disconnect there. And if that happens here in a place like this, I'm sure in the other LGUs ganun din.
Okay. So number 2, so yun na, merong LGU levels. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng ating mga mayors are supposed to be hands on deck, all hands on deck when it comes to the pandemic. They are given all the tools, they're given all the training, and they have to make sure that the people who are in the front line are supposed to be doing their jobs well or properly. And lahat ito are happening within the next 24 hours. No, if somebody is reported to have COVID, lahat ito mga bagay ito ay dapat nagagawa. Ang tanong lang ay kung nagagawa ba nila, 'di ba? And there's no way to assess or to audit these things at this moment. Si Mikel is able to see kasi syempre may kita mo din yan kung you live in a community, you would know if things are happening or people are responding properly to the needs of their community. Number 2, individual level. Ito yung sinasabi ni Mikel na medyo mas naaasar talaga siya sa mga tao dahil ay kung ano yung kanilang attitude towards the pandemic. Sabi ni Doc Bebs, we need to enhance our compliance to the MPHS. It is not enough that we are wearing a mask. We must wear it correctly, covering our noses and our chins. Complement it with proper wearing of face shield. Kasi paminsan, mapapansin mo, may mga iba dyan ay tinatamad magsuot ng mask at na sinusuot nila yung mask sa kanilang chin. Hindi naman yung chin mo ang pinapasukan ng virus, yung bibig mo. So if you cover your chin with your mask, nagmask ka pa, wag ka na lang sana magmask kung gano'n rin ang gagawin mo. 'Di ba? Tapos yung sinasabi nga nila pag pumunta ng mall, yung mga nag-face shield pa itong mga to, nakataas naman sa ulo nila, parang ginagawang shade yung kanilang face shield. Ginagawang sunglasses nilalagay doon sa ulo nila, hindi sa kanilang muka. Nag-face shield ka pa, wag ka na lang mag-face shield, 'di ba? So, yun yung mga bagay, na mga maliliit na bagay na sa tingin natin na hindi nakaka-apekto, pero nakaka-apekto po talaga yan. Kasi karamihan ng mga cases, na kumakalat, tandaan po natin, ay galing po sa laway itong COVID. So pag nagsalita ka, pagkwentuhan ka sa kaibigan mo, sa iyong kapamilya, tatasik yung laway mo, papasok sa ilong nila, sa bibig nila, yung mga tinatawag nilang aerosol coming from your mouth that's infected by COVID, that's where transmission happens. Sabi naman dito ni Doc Bebs, it is not enough that we are washing our hands with soap and water. We must do so frequently for at least 20 seconds each time. So may proper washing of hands rin. No? Dapat hindi natin minamadali yan. It is not enough to physically distance ourselves from the people we meet. We must ensure there is good ventilation and time of interaction is kept to the minimum. Malala ko dati, Mikel, pag pumunta ka sa SM Mega Mall at tumambay ka dun sa kanilang mga cafe, yung kanilang mga yung mga food stalls nila near the grocery. Pag medyo tumagal ka dun, kunyari nagpi-Facebook ka, pagkatapos mong kumain, sistahin ka ng gwardya. Sir, bawal pong magtambay dyan.
Well, actually, so totoo lang, Ron. I mean, syempre biased ako because my business is in the mall. But, I feel safe going to the mall.
You feel safer
actually,
when you're at home.
Yes, because sa mall,
Actually,
talagang they're strict with the face shield and the mask. And a lot of the malls, they have people going around. Sasabihan ka talaga nila pag nakita ka nilang hindi nakasuot ng mask properly or whatever. Plus, most of the establishments in the mall, like us, we have to comply with strict protocol also. No, so talaga maingat kami. Siyempre kasi we also want our people to be safe, 'di ba? So sa malls, actually kampante ako. Like me, who's one of the most running COVID people here, I go to the mall. Kasi I'm okay there. One, it's my job anyway. But I feel comfortable kasi they check me there and wala hindi kayo magkakatabi dyan. Yung worry ko talaga is yung outside of those kinds of establishments na wala na talagang mga checks. There are some offices that aren't even doing all of these proper minimum protocols just for the sake of kailangan nila magtrabaho, which is, contributing to it.
Sabi ni Doc
ang akin lang siguro is,
Eric,
ang contribute ko lang siguro dyan regarding sa mall is, safe nga sa mall talaga. Wag lang mag-loiter. Wag lang tumambay at magtagal doon. Kasi, yun yung problema eh. Di ba, if you go to a restaurant, kunwari, I don't know, like an Indian restaurant, pag kumain ka doon, paglabas mo doon, di ba, amoy curry ka na rin. Di ba, parang ganun eh. So, isipin mo na lang ganun ng analogy. Pag tumagal ka sa isang area na merong COVID positive person, na walang kamangwang, the longer that you stay there, the more susceptible you are to contracting that virus.
Something that we learned, Rick, in the past year, ang term na viral load. Yung tinatawag na viral load. That means if you are exposed to COVID for a long period of time, chances of you getting COVID is a lot higher. That's why frontliners are mostly in danger of contracting COVID because they're exposed for a very long time in the hospital. Now, if you expose yourself for a very long time, imagine hanging out with your friends, no? Na di naman minimum niyan 2 oras kayong nagkwentuhan. Isipin mo nagkukwentuhan kayo ng 2 oras, 3 oras sa isang venue na poorly ventilated. Tapos hindi mo alam yung kaibigan mo meron palang COVID. Hawa talaga kayo lahat nun. Sigurado. Diba?
Well, the question, ang concern ko dito, Ron, is, 1 year na tayo dito sa sitwasyon na to. Hanggang ngayon, we still have to tell people how to wear their mask.
That's the thing eh. That's really what...
Itong point nga ni Doc Bebs, Rick, Mikel, it is not enough that we know the right thing. We must educate others too. So going to back to what you just said, Mikel, parang, isang taon na tayong ginagawa to. Kailangan pa nating turuan yung mga... Ano ba yan? Hanggang ngayon, di ba pa natin alam yung tamang gagawin?
Yung sinasabi
hindi mo pa rin alam?
Yung sinasabi nga ni Mikel kanina na meron pa rin siya mga kakilala na sa tingin nila, conspiracy pa rin ang COVID. Parang, what kind of rock are you under, man? I mean, 1 year, tapos yan pa rin ang no?
Meron akong kilala, Eric, may mga yung they were doing survey for their helpers and the other staff na magpapavaccine ba kayo? Ayaw lahat. Yung sabi ng isa, and I've heard this more than once, is ayaw din nila magpa-swab test kasi feeling nila the WHO is putting COVID in the swab kasi gusto nga nila mabawasan yung world population. And as in legit daw, hindi mo pwedeng kausapin, you
What
cannot,
the
convince them
hell?
otherwise. And so even sa company na, when we do the survey as to the vaccine, ganyan-ganyan, ang dami mga all sorts of mga mababasa mo dun. It's like, wow, really, there's still people who think this way. So anyway, we have to go and educate people and help them. But the mere fact na 1 year on, dami na namatay, ang dami na nagkasakit, and we're still telling people, hey, wag nyo na masuot dito yung mask nyo. Or alam mo yun, maghugas kayo ng kamay, parang wow, what the heck, wala talagang tayo pag-asa. Alam mo yun, it's a matter of life and death hanggang hindi mo pa rin maintindihan. Ano ba yan? And the thing is, Eric and Ron, you can sometimes I hear people blame the poor people, yung mga masa, ganyan-ganyan. Actually, this is my thoughts on is the poorer people, the masa, have more excuse than anybody else. Ang hirap ng sitwasyon nila. One, they cannot work from home. They don't have that luxury. They have to go to work. They have to risk their life every day. Two, they don't live in houses na malalaki that they can space out between them. They don't have several different bathrooms to use, no? So anyway, it's harder for them to comply. Okay? But they do. They still comply. Ang mas galit ako sa mga tao na alam kong mayayaman, they have those big spaces, but they still blatantly break the rules. Those are the ones I have a lot of disrespect
Edukado.
for. Because,
Alam mo yun?
yes,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
educated, you went to the best schools, you've been told everything you need to know, but you still think, it's not, alam mo, those are the ones I get annoyed with.
They even have the audacity to actually share on Facebook what they're doing with their friends. Oh, look, we're here hanging out. Walang mask. Sige naman. Go for crying
Sino
out
mo sino
loud.
na yung issue sa Bohol, yun lang. Di ba merong
Oh,
nag-foam
yeah, yung
party
foam
sa Bohol?
party. Pero, okay lang yung foam.
Poor people ba yung mga yun?
Hindi,
Okay lang yung foam party, at least.
Malinis yun.
Nagawin nga sila nakabay. Kahit na tumasiglawan nila, diretso sa soap.
Baka naman tide yung ginamit nila dun, no?
Safeguard daw yun, bro. Safeguard.
Hindi tsaka totoo, Michaela, marami nagkwento sa akin, meron daw mga bars talaga nag-ooperate during the pandemic, hindi lang natin alam.
Ang dami nang nahuli yan. And yung kay Mon pa lang, di ba?
Poblasyon buhay.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
Ang poblasyon. My God.
I get it because, they need to work, but still, we still all need to comply. Lahat naman, ako may negosyo, I can't say na, kailangan ko lang magpatrabaho ng tao. We still have to follow the protocols. And the thing is, madami mga nagpa-party, mga underground. Why are you doing that now? Especially now, di ba?
Ako, I work in poblasyon area, okay? So, nadadaanan ko yan. So, by the time I go home, nadadaanan ko yan. Sa gabi, maririnig mo, alam mo, pag dadaan sa bar, binababa ko yung window ko. Narinig ko, bug, bug,
diba?
Gano'n na, may tugs-tugs na kagad. Grabe talaga itong mga... diba?
Nakakabaliw eh. Tapos even big mga weddings and all sorts. But also, Ron, I think, I don't know if Doc Bev mentioned it, but I mentioned it before, is people also are misguided about testing. So parang feeling nila yung antigen test, antigen test ka lang before a wedding, negative, okay na, hindi na kailangan mag-mask or whatever. Doon mali ka. It depends on when you're tested, what was your exposure prior to the test. Alam mo yung mga ganon. But people don't think. Pinopost pa na sa IG, hindi, negative yung antigen ko. But anong ginawa mo kanina? Mali ko ba, nakipaglaplapan ka sa COVID person kahapon? Di mo, alam mo yun? Hindi naman lalabas sa test yun eh.
Sino nga yung artista na pinagmalaki pa niya, nag-antigen kami lahat.
Dami. Like si Mon, di ba? Nahuli si Mon, there was that party sa, di ba? But again, that's why you have to follow. But again, the mere fact that we're still having to educate people on how to test, when to test, there's just so much misinformation out there.
Yeah, and kahit na nga na-vaccinate ka, you still have to wear a mask. Diba?
Yeah,
kasi you can be a carrier and you can actually give that to someone. Kahit vaccinated ka, hindi ka apektado, pero you can still pass it on. Kaya kahit vaccinated, kailangan naka-mask ka pa rin, social distance ka pa rin.
Ano pang sabi ni Doc Bebs?
Okay, last, no? Ito yung pinakahuli na sinabi ni Doc Bebs. Kasi tatlong bagay, three main course of action. Three main audiences ito eh. Yung last is yung establishment level. Dapat may enhanced risk mitigation strategies yung mga companies, yung ating mga corporations. Number one, engineering controls. Dapat merong mga controls yung mga companies. Number 2, may ventilation. And 3, contact tracing. So I think karamihan naman ng mga companies no ginagawa na yan, sinusunod naman yan, Mikel. Not sure though if it's 100%.
Yeah.
Super
There's
strict.
some that aren't, Ron, and it's really crazy. I mean, napapakahirap to do all of these things, but there's some na they don't follow. May mga cases na alam ako na nagsha-shuttle, ang dami nagkasakit sa shuttle. And like even for us this week, we're having meetings to review whether we should do work from home again because tumataas yung mga case, mababawas na naman kami ng mga tao sa office. And naawa na rin ako sa mga tao because really, syempre, reduced hours na rin yung mga tao, reduced sweldo, because the business isn't doing well, and there's people who are following the rules, doing their best, having to work, but then because of people who are so careless, it affects everybody, diba? That's the selfish view there. Alam mo, isipin mo if you're gonna do something, kung ilang taong pwede ma-affect. Like I have friends na isipin nila, bata naman ako, walang mangyayari sa akin. But how about your relatives? How about your parents? How about your people that you work with? You can pass that on to them. It will affect so many different people. So parang,
Mikel,
kakabwisit eh.
Ano tingin mo, may sinabi sa akin yung driver ng kasama ko sa Congress kanina. Na sa tingin niya, reason kaya medyo nagkaroon ng surge is because nung simula daw nung pinayagan ng mga bata na lumabas, doon daw niya napansin na biglang tumaas yung cases.
Well,
Meron bang correlation yun?
I don't agree with it because even when they did allow more kids to go, that was still 15 to 65. Madami pa rin wala. Most parents still kept their kids home. There's no school.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing from what the doctor told us, the most cases for transmission are from work, offices, and social gatherings. And I can understand, and also you have to understand that the Department of Tourism also encourage travel na, diba? So you can go to Boracay, Palawan, all sorts of places. Ngayon, wala naman lang testing. So those things will contribute to that. No, for the sake of opening the economy, you have to accept that there will be a risk na ganyan, that they've opened up the borders basically before you go from one place to, like, even to go to Ormoc or to Leyte, and dami mga testing. Ngayon wala na. I can understand it. But
si Eric nga eh. Imagine kung si Eric may COVID, umikot ng buong Pilipinas yan. O di nagkalat sana si Eric.
Nagkalat na.
Sabihin ko nga sana kanina, baka si Eric pala nagsimula nitong But,
si Eric, yung salarin. Si Eric pala yung nagkalat in the last 3 weeks. No?
Si Eric tested yan.
Tested,
Before I left, I tested negative, and when I came back, I tested negative. So,
puro RT-PCR to Rick. Hindi to antigen test. Okay. Sabi ni Gray Mendez, pero sana may RT-PCR. Good. Sabi ni Gray Mendez, pero sana may contact tracing ang government na digital. 1 year and walang contact tracing, tapos walang disiplina. Selfish people, ang problema. Filipino in general. Gov and tao. Sorry, just my opinion. Gray, yes.
Tama ka dyan. Tama ka, Gray.
Alam mo, kanya-kanyang efforts ng mga local government. Like I said, no, going back to what the Doc Bev said, na even last year pa nagsimula na yung devolution of powers, no. Ang IATF basically is just becoming a main guide to the LGUs, but the LGUs ultimately are the ones who are in the front lines, are the ones talagang implementing all these different policies created by the IATF in conjunction and also in coordination with our LGU officials. So kung ano yung sa kanila, hiyang sa kanilang situation, yun ang ginagawa ng LGU. Unfortunately, ang problema dyan, Mikel, na nakita ko, speaking of contact tracing apps, kanya-kanyang LGU, iba-iba ang yung gumagana.
Ang tanong ko sana is, why can't we all use Stay Safe? Why does each LGU have its own? Pag pumunta ka ng ibang government agency, iba. Pag pumunta ka ng airport, iba. In most other places, well, either they don't want to pay for it or there's a racket with each LGU.
There's a racket with each LGU.
Even
lahat ng, ang nakakatawa kasi, yung pumunta ako ng Davao, I prepared everything for Davao. So meron akong QR code for Davao. Tapos every checkpoint na nadadaanan ko along the way, hinihingan ako ng QR code. Ay, sabi ko, wala akong QR code ninyo, pasensya na. Sa Davao lang yung na-prepare ko. So,
Oh.
pinakita ko lang lahat. Pinakita ko yung COVID shield ko, pinakita ko yung COE ko, pinakita ko lahat, no? Pati company ID, lisensya, and pinakita ko lahat ng documents ko. Sabi ko, wala akong tinatago sa inyo. Wala lang akong QR code nila. Pinapalampas naman nila ako. Tapos parang may fill out lang ako na contact tracing form. So, in terms of technology, meron namang effort ng mga LGUs to use technology, no? Itong
Yeah.
QR code. But the thing is, yun nga, yung sabi nga ni Mikel, ba't hindi na lang uniform, no? One Philippine QR code na nandun yung details mo. Tapos yun na yung gagamitin natin all throughout. But then again, binigyan kasi ng authority yung mga LGUs to do their own shit. So,
Pero
ginawa
Nick,
nga.
kahit different government agencies, different din yung contact tracing forms
Yeah,
nila. Like,
yun nga,
pumunta ka ng BIR or pumunta ka somewhere else, it's different.
Yeah.
That's just why it's harder. If they made it uniform, it would be easier. And people kasi lose faith in the contact tracing, feeling nila it's not needed anymore. And for the most part, contact tracing is just help.
Brad,
Hindi naman
may
siya yung main naglilimit eh.
alam mo yung may mga restaurants na kailangan disulat pa rin na yung contact tracing. May nakita ako doon, nakalagay Brad Pitt, mga ganun.
No. Madami na ako na nadaanan na places in the na ganun. Ako very particular sa audit namin sa Antian kasi we also check the forms. But luckily now a lot of it is QR code. But we also notice, Ron, na naka-affect like pagtatanong kami sa Mandaluyong, ba't bumaba yung sales ng mga store natin dito? Sabihin kasi na, sir, biglang the next day nag-implement si Mandaluyong ng sarili nilang QR code na ganyan-ganyan. So, di sila nagpapapasok ng tao sa mall. Parang, oh, wow. Alam mo yun, if everybody just use the Stay Safe app on the phone and whatever, I think it would be much, much easier. Whatever it is, no? But just uniform it. But the problem nga is when you give the powers to the LGU, you are reliant on that LGU being good. Okay. And sadly, we know some of these people who have been elected. Alam mo naman, di ba, hindi magagaling yung mga yan. So, wag tayong aasa na bigla na lang silang gagaling. Dahil, alam mo yun, iba dyan, peperahan pa. Quarantine pass nga, pinagperahan pa dati, di ba? Ano pa kaya?
Alam mo, Mikel, may katotohanan yung mga sinasabi mo kasi mapapansin mo ngayon dahil sa pandemic, maraming mga suppliers biglang lumalabas at nag-o-offer sa mga different government officials ng kailang services. And I'm sure part of these services, maraming mga tech companies na, they think this is an opportunity for them to sell their trade. Di ba? Yung mga, not only that, meron yung mga tinatawag nating gusto nilang i-digitize yung process ng government, offer nila yung services nila, meron mga nag-offer ng smart cities na programs na for a particular sa isang LGU. Siyempre, yung LGU, pag merong mga nag-offer, hindi ko naman sinasabi lahat. Pero merong mga iba dyan, nakikita nila kagad, uy, pwede may kickback tayo dito.
Kahit isipin mo, ano pang pwedeng pagkakitaan ng LGU? Testing. Okay, pwedeng pagkakitaan. So dati nung mga start, bigla nagre-require yung mga ng LGU ng certain, kailangan mo magpa-test dito sa particular clinic na to, alam na this. Or yung kahit yung mga PPE nila, saan nila nakukuha yan? Dahil mga racket na ganyan. No? Sadly, that's just part of the thing. And it also, sometimes may mga LGU na they mean well, but because yung mga tao talagang suspicious na, ganyan talaga, di ba? So that's why sadly I don't think we should rely so much on the LGUs. Although the LGUs have the power to control their areas, they know more about their area. You'll hear horror stories of how one LGU, like si Vico sa Pasig, apparently he's been doing a relatively good job, but then you go to a next LGU, it's different, di ba? So dyan tayo nadadali minsan, and then we cannot just expect them to start doing good work. And the other thing about LGU, sadly, Ron, alam mo naman siguro to, Ron, na yung iba mga political people dyan, sanay na malaking kinikita every 3 years. Alam nilang magkano kinikita nila from taxes, business permits, but lahat yan bagsak. Okay? Lahat ng mga contributions ng mga normal businesses in the area bagsak. People have to make that money somehow. So, sadly, there's still opportunities.
Hindi lang yun, Mikel. This being a year before election year,
exactly.
Ito na at medyo lumalabas na yung mga pangalan ng mga politiko sa mga kanilang even the smallest thing that seem very innocuous like a tent. May pangalan to ng councilor. yung testing tent or,
talaga.
di ba?
Ito, Ron, hindi ako magugulat ha pag kuwari ma-delay yung mga vaccine natin pero palapit na sa election, may mga ano dyan, vaccines
May mga pangalan.
brought to you by, di ba? Mga ganyan. Feeling ko magiging possibility yan dito sa atin. Sadly, ganyan talaga. Ayoko na mag-isip na masama, pero pag nakita na natin sa Pilipinas, kahit na life or death, kaya pa rin pagkakitaan yan.
Advice ko lang sa mga nanonood, no, pag kung nakarehistro kayo para sa election sa 2022, pag meron kayong nakitang mga government official na or mga pangalan nila nakatatak sa kung ano man, nagba-branding na sila, no, sa mga supposed na services that they're supposed to be giving their constituents at mayroong mga pangalan, tandaan yung mga pagmumukha nila, wag mo silang botohin sa 2022. Disqualified ka agad yun. Electioneering sa panahon ng pandemya, disqualified dapat kaagad. Dapat hindi mo botohin itong mga kupal na to. Pag sabi ni Jojo Dagmante, meron siyang question sa atin. Guys, sabi niya, what can you say about 6 nights quarantine sa hotel ng Balikbayan? Alam mo, sa totoo lang, Miguel, itong ginawa ng gobyerno for our OFWs ay kangahanga. Actually, yung mga OFWs natin who had to come back home because they lost their jobs or they came back because there's no opportunity anymore in their host country. When they came back, talagang VIP treatment sila by the government. And a lot of people have attest nag-test, may mga testimonial sila na talaga ang galing daw ng ginawa ng gobyerno in the way they treated the OFWs who came back. So that's kudos to the OWA and the Department of Labor, the ones who are taking care of our OFWs. Obviously, sila yung mga tinamaan din ng COVID at they lost their jobs from abroad. The least we can do is when they come back, they're taken care of. So that's a positive thing, Jojo. I don't know what the question, why you asked that question.
Tinatanong niya rin baka kung kailangan pa ba gawin yan. I mean, they're doing it obviously to prevent sana the new variants from coming in. Pero nandito na eh. In fact, tayo na nag-export ng mga variant to other countries. So, there still has to be protocols for when people arrive from other countries for sure. Di ko lang alam the length of time. No? I think, but like, even si Nico Bolzico, who's diba? So, he's he chronicled his arrival back from Argentina last week and how he had to quarantine for 5 or 6 days and all the testing, Red Cross, so that he could be back with his family. Dinaanan niya, and he was very about it. He showed how it was done, and he actually spoke well of the process. So, kudos to the people involved.
Sabi ni Ronan Dayo to, ito, my experience during my recent vacation with the government handling us OFWs was so great. Kudos, sabi ni Ronan Dayo.
Good. Kasi pati people traveling from Manila, kina-quarantine din sa mga different LGUs. Kailangan yung may quarantine din Kasi they're iffy. Some LGUs, no, not all, but some LGUs are iffy about people coming from Manila kasi nga hotspot dito
Tsaka may mayroon akong friend na mayroon siyang COVID ngayon. He's actually he lives in a decent house. Actually, it does very well. The LGU took him and put him in a hotel to quarantine, so he doesn't give it to the rest of his family. Yeah, sagot na LGU lahat.
Ang problema ni Jojo, Rick, Mikel, hindi daw siya OFW. So hindi daw libre yung hotel
well, depende siguro sa LGU, but most LGUs pay for it. Even yung testing mo, yung RT-PCR test mo.
Depende kasi kung nagbakasyon ka or something, you flew out, they won't cover it. But if you're living in an area, you're suspected or something. Like, nagulat ako, my friend, sabi niya, sa hotel siya, sabi na sa hotel, dinampot daw siya ng LGU kasi para hindi niya makawaan yung bahay niya.
Ang alam ko sa Davao,
medyo kinakabahan ka kagad pag sinabing dinampot. Ano sa'yo mo, Rick? Sa Davao?
If you're staying for more than 2 weeks, kunwari sa Davao, the Davao City government will pay for your testing, your RT-PCR. Tapos, they will quarantine you at a hotel at their own expense. I mean, at the government's expense, the LGU's expense. Wala kang babayaran. Yun yung sa
Mm.
Davao. So, I think depende siya sa LGU.
So
Kung,
Rick, kung gusto ko magbakasyon from my wife, ganun lang pala kailangan kong gawin.
yeah, man.
Punta na ako
Okay
ng
mo
Davao.
na, punta ako
All
dito for more
expenses
than 2
paid.
weeks.
Diba?
Sabi ni Gray
Check ko yung
Mendez,
tindahan ko.
sabi ni Gray Mendez, may scam din dyan. Yung mga hotel daw na 3 stars, naghihiwalay mag-asawa para dalawa charge sa government. So 2 rooms, pero kung ayaw nyo, of course, sign kayo ng papel na pinaghihiwalay kayo. Then may NDA daw. Talaga lang ha, pucha talaga ibang klase rin ha.
Grabe
Tinutoo
sila.
mo
Basta
yan.
pwedeng... Well, kasi you have to remember the hotels and the mga motels, all of them, they've really struggled for the whole year. So, syempre, gagawahin ng paraan.
Naghahanap talaga ng paraan. Kasi there are some hotels din dito sa Manila that I know of na may mga long staying guests sila. Before they can during visiting hours, pwede sila magdala ng guests. Tapos ngayon na nangyayari, the hotels will charge them 2,000 pesos per guest even during visiting hours. So they were
Wow.
like, what? Grabe, parang ano ba? Ba't ganun? So medyo hassle for them. So,
Yeah, they're trying to survive it. Meron ang daming hotels ngayon nagsarado na. Sa Davao, Rick, 'di ba? Yung
Marco
yung
Polo.
Marco
Marco
Polo.
Polo nagsarado. Yung Apo
Shangri-La.
View,
Shangri-La
Hmm?
Makati.
Shangri-La
Makati.
Makati.
Makati. Yung Tower Inn owned by Dabawenyo, si Willie Torres nagsarado rin.
Sarado rin.
Sabi ni lady from Hong Kong, totoo yan, dalawang kapatid from Saudi umuwi, quarantine in Conrad Hotel.
Conrad?
Sabi ni
Wow.
lady
Wow.
from Hong Kong.
Sana
Oh,
Husay.
quarantine.
Naka-Conrad ka pa.
Yun nga, sana maano ako sa Shang BGC man lang, 2 weeks.
Siyang BGC.
Alam mo, mas gusto ko sa Ascot BGC kaysa sa Shang BGC. Mas gusto ko yung
Kahit saan, basta makalabas lang ako ng bahay ko, okay na ako.
Sabi ni Terence Valdeweza, with regards to people's behavior, I avoid viewing and reading comments online kasi halos lahat doon binabaliwala na ang COVID. Tinatawanan pa yung mga daily number of new cases. Those are real people, pero sa kanila joke lang.
Terence,
And
totoo
that's the
yan,
thing,
ang daming ganyan.
And that's the thing. Maraming ganyan, pero once tinamaan sila yung unang-unang magrereklamo na, where's my vaccine? Where's my, yan.
Diba?
Sila
I can't believe until now there are still people who doubt COVID or feel like it's not that big a deal or what. I mean, wow. I mean,
Are these the same
sana kung
people
tayo
you
lang,
think?
diba?
Are these the same people you think, or just looking forward to the release of the new Justice League this Thursday? Sana ko manonood. 4 hours pa naman yung 4 hours pa naman yung yung bagong yung
HBO, di ba HBO Max yun?
HBO Max.
Here you have
Si
to subscribe,
si
right?
Zack Snyder na version.
Snyder Cut. 4 hours? Oh, shit.
Wala, Pilipinas naman, pirated. Pilipino naman tayo.
Oo, daming paraan yung mga yan. Pa-torrent lang yung mga yan. Yun ang pinoproblema ngayon. Ngayong Thursday, hindi yan COVID. sabi ni Gray, dito sa SG, kapag di ka naka-face mask, 300 Singapore dollars kagad yung fine. Depende kung ayaw mo sumunod. Good luck. Kulungan agad. Bagsak mo. Tapos kung foreigner ka pa, banned for life to work in Singapore ka pa. Oh, di ba?
Tapos may caning pa yan.
Okay, so fine. Sabi ni Doc Bebs, three areas ang ina-address. First, the LGUs. Of course, reminding people yung ating individual responsibility as citizens. We have to make sure that we do the right thing. And third, of course, the companies, the corporations, the workplace, they have to have, they have to be strict in implementing such rules. Problema niyan, Mikel.
Ron, here's the thing. Out of the 3 items dyan, there is only one thing that you can really control, and it's item number 2, which is individual. Diba?
Mm-hmm.
So, ikaw bahala sa sarili mo. Okay? Kung pabaya ka, wala. Diba? Magkaka-COVID ka one way or another. Pero if you take care of yourself, you really follow the rules of how to wear your mask properly, mag-face shield ka, social distancing, wash your hands, ganun kay. Ako nga nakakatawa. kahit na wallet ko or cellphone ko, pag hinahawakan ko, kunwari nasa labas ako, nag-alcohol ako kahit dito sa bahay. Alam mo yun? So parang you can actually live with this virus with the right amount of paranoia. Yun lang. Diyan sa the other two items, kunwari sa LGU, medyo
Hmm.
hindi mo maasahan yun eh. Okay? I mean, you can't really control what the LGU does. The establishments, hindi rin. Pero the
Hmm.
item number two, individual, ladies and gentlemen, yan ang pwede mong gawin. Yan ang control mo. And you have to do that. Kasi,
I think yung point ni Doc Bebs, Rick, Mikel, kaya niya na-mention yung three main points, no? Three main audiences for the communication plan of the IATF. It's because the government constantly are addressing these three sectors, kumbaga. Three uh, uh, main targets ng
yeah,
IATF. The everything that they're doing right now is to make sure that the LGUs are doing the right thing. They're making sure that the LGUs are capable. They have the resources to deal with the pandemic at the local level. Okay? So all throughout these past few months, yan ang ginagawa ng government. Walang sawa. Number two, kaka-remind sa mga tao na sumunod sa mga alintuntunin ng gobyerno. Nakakasawa na nga eh. Yung bida parating pinupush ng mga tao, and I think people already know what they need to do. The question is if they're following it to the T up to now. And number three, the companies, they, they, they can do all these things. No, um, it's their prerogative, the management of these companies, to make sure that everybody is compliant sa kanyang mga employees. Itong mga bagay na to, through the different agencies of government, andyan yung coordination, andyan yung mga resources. As much as the government can, they're providing everything. Siguro may mga delays. Hindi natin maiwasan, there's a dearth in the supply of vaccines. And sabi, tama naman, may point rin naman si Mikel, na sana ay mas mabilis yung mga decision making. Unfortunately, government is a huge bureaucracy, and you cannot overnight change the system. May problema talaga. Kahit na si presidente mismo nagsasabi, pagod na siya sa kaka-deal with the bureaucracy of the government, sa red tape. Wala siyang magawa kahit na presidente siya ng Pilipinas. Di ba?
Ron, actually, yung isang concern mo din, which I think is is this is the year before the elections, no? And there's a lot of people trying to politic the situation. Yung mga dating
Exactly.
kalyado
Oh.
ng government, all of a sudden, ang daming sinasabi. Kasi, di ba, alam mo
Mm.
yun, because everybody's trying to position themselves for the elections. And sadly, it's really bad timing because instead of people focusing on fixing COVID, people are fixing their own positions for the elections or how to secure the money for the elections. And I think that's going to be a problem for us. And then I want to thank Doc Bev for giving us those. I really appreciate everything Doc Bev does. She's so awesome. Yung sa akin lang is, ang tanong ko with the government now is nandito na tayo sa sitwasyon na to that the cases are exploding. We know the LGUs don't have the sufficient mechanisms to deal with it. We know the hospitals are so full. Anong gagawin natin? We know people are pasaway. People don't listen. So I don't know what the solution is now because there's no vaccines anytime soon. Hospitals are full and the LGUs don't seem to know what they're doing. So anong gagawin natin? I mean, because we cannot, even if I'm super careful, if the cases are super wild and the hospitals are full, we're in a very tricky situation. Yun yung kinakabahan ako eh. No doubt, there's some people in the government who are working so hard who have done a good job. But at this point, we're just parang, wala na, let it go. Natural selection na lang ba yung vibes na nakukuha ng ibang tao? Na hindi na, parang helpless ba? Na hindi na namin alam ang gagawin namin. Because like even for company, mention ni Doc Bev sa number 3 doon, like we as a company have spent millions upon millions on keeping our employees and the customers safe. As in, wala na kaming pake sa profits as long as we keep everybody safe and we keep everybody employed. Yun lang,
Mm.
diba? So we've done,
Mm.
and I speak for a lot of companies that most companies have done everything they can to make these additional safety measures for mga offices. Minsan lang may mga pinapa-implement si Dole na talagang papakamot ka na lang ng ulo na sino naman nag-isip nito.
Pinadala ni Hubert.
Pero gusto ko
Oo.
balikan, Michael, yung yung bago nilang in-implement na naging masyadong talk of the town is the curfew na ginawang katatawanan na bakit meron bang sa gabi wala palang
Yeah.
sa umaga wala palang COVID, sa gabi
I
lang.
don't mind
So
it.
nag-night shift. Pero alam mo, I think I understand also the rationale behind it, the rationality behind it, because first of all, people let their guard down when they have drinks with their friends. Most of the time, drinking happens at night. And these socials na tinatawag natin, when people call each other up and say, hey, let's get together, kahit na anim lang tayo, inuman tayo, catch up, let's catch up. Tapos they'll have a few drinks at somebody's home. Not thinking that one of them could be infected with COVID, and that person wouldn't really know if they are. And if they are, they wouldn't really tell their friends because they'd be too afraid that, baka, alam mo naman, merong stigma kagad pag may COVID ka. Matatakot kagad sa iyo tao. So these things happen every day. And I think the reason, ito nga it's best expressed by one of our viewers kanina. Sabi nila, wag naman ninyo masyadong, for a lack of a better word to describe it, wag naman tayo masyadong literal sa mga suggestions or ginagawa ng government. Kasi this is a way to mitigate or to limit the infection. Di ba? Huwag na tayo, sarcastic kagad tayo, pinupuna kagad natin eh. Talagang kagad tayo eh.
Well,
Pilosopo kagad tayo.
Ang i-add ko lang din sana, Ron, ang wish ko lang for government officials also is to lead by example. Because there are many recent instances na government officials mismo sumuway sa mga protocols. Sila pang sa PNP chief, di ba? He didn't follow the whatever it is. Sinas, di ba? And he's not the only one. Madami yan, di ba? So sana if we want people to follow us, kasi yung binabato palagi, bakit ko gagawin yun kung sila nga hindi nila kaya? It's stupid, I know, but it's still, really there's still people who think that way. And yung dun sa liquor ban naman, kasi natanong din sa akin ng mga friends ko, bakit naman liquor ban? Hindi naman nakakatulong yan. Sa totoo lang, it's really for, sadly, whether you're doing it or not, for the poorer areas. No, yung mga inuman ng gin, tanduay dyan, and all that happens at night, after work, this will be limited because of the liquor ban. Not saying na mawawala yan, kasi alam mo naman Pilipino, maabilidad.
Actually,
pag kailangan mo ng gin, yan.
Sorry, Miguel, it's not just for the poor people. It's also for the people na may pera na pumupunta ng bar.
Yeah, but the thing is, the people, ang alam ko kasi, like Rick, yung mga, kung kailangan mo lang alcohol, in our circles, you can still get
alcohol. You can.
Yeah, but in like the poorer areas, yung mga gin, alam mo yun, mga tanduay, hinebra nila, it's because of these kinds of liquor bans, that's the deterrent there for most of those guys.
Sabagay, that's true.
Diba?
And it's also,
kasi dami pa rin. Yeah.
Kasi nga, diba, I just mentioned kanina, poblasyon is wide open. Okay, and I'm not really sure sa mga ibang lugar kung ano pa yung mga bars na bukas yan.
Nilaglag ni Eric yung poblasyon.
Totoo yun. May isang bar doon ni-raid the other night eh.
May sinara si Abby Binay doon, 2 establishment last week.
Yeah, there you go. Kasi nang-raid nga sila. Because walang protocols whatsoever. I don't know kasi parang...
Tigas-ulo eh.
Tigas-ulo talaga.
Hindi, siguro itong mga bar owners na to, kapit patalim na rin eh. Kasi desperado na sila. Hindi sila kumikita. They haven't been earning for the last year.
The only reason why they're open like that is because they're paying off someone. Okay? Ang problema ngayon, sinabi ng boss nila, siguro si Mayor, hindi, i-raid niya yan. So, wala silang magawa. Diba?
Sabi ni Ella Mickey, dito din sa Italy, halos wala na paki mga tao sa COVID, kaya tuloy pagbalik-balik kami sa lockdown. Yun yung issues na kailangan. Hindi lang ang Pilipinas may problema nito, no? Even the other countries. Kaya nga, Look,
Joke.
a country like the USA, they have all the resources in the world to actually address this problem, but up to now, they are still struggling to overcome this issue of COVID-19. Why? Because the government can only do so much. They can
Mm.
provide the best facilities, provide you with all the vaccines in the world. Pero kung yung mga tao mo hindi magko-cooperate, ayaw magpabakuna dahil hindi sila naniniwala sa vaccination, or gusto nilang mag-Instagram at mag-party, mag-anti-COVID party,
Oh, may COVID na Ron, padala na kita ng PCR test dyan sa inyo, ha?
alam mo na PCR test, medyo,
Meron ako dito
di
mga
ba?
test sa bahay.
So, things like that are happening around the world that it's worsening the situation. Kaya, konting ano rin, pasensya pa minsan. At the same time, we have to demand also that the government, uh, you know, do the right thing and do their jobs right.
Mm.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
yun yun, pero ang akin lang talaga is really boils down to the individual. And which is my point kanina na sinabi ko kanina Ron, no? Kasi out of the 3 points na sinabi ni Doc Bev na tina-target nila, in our part naman, it's we are in charge of the individual part. Tayo, di ba? So we just need to really discipline ourselves, no? So kung may nakita ka din, kunwari, may nakita akong hindi nagmamask sa opisina o whatever, makakilala ko, yes, pinagsasabihan ko na, "Shh, magmask ka ngayon, di ba? So, it's really up to us if you want to make this work. If you really want to control the numbers, yung day-to-day numbers ng COVID cases, it starts with the individual. We can't really blame the government at this point eh. Sabi nga ni Mikel, ang taon na to, man. Tapos, hindi mo pa rin alam how to act outside in public. Come on. I mean, hindi na
all you
kasalanan
can
ng gobyerno.
ask, all I can ask the government to do is obviously support the hospitals and make sure that they do
Yeah.
the enforcements properly. But like even kuya dito sa village namin na enclosed village, alam mo, madami pera yung mga tao dito. Dito lang, nag-iikot ako the other day on my bike, ang dami ng mga pasaway, people not wearing masks.
Mhm.
I mean, construction is allowed. Dumaan ako ilang construction site, kahit isang contractor walang nakamask. There are 20 or 30 there. And it's really a matter of one, enforcement, but also dapat alam nila. Like I had some work done here sa bahay namin over 3 weeks. Every day on mask. Naglagay kami ng mga alcohol stations. Ang dami namin check. May temperature check pa kami. We're able to do it. And happy to comply naman yung contractor kasi gusto niya din safe sila, family niya, di ba? But yan, imagine yung situation dito na ganyan. I-multiply mo by millions yan. Kasi ang daming mga pasaway, di ba? They don't want to
Yeah.
follow. They feel like it's all useless, pero kagaguhan din, di ba? So
You
anyway, but
guys,
like Eric said, the individual is the most important.
syempre, mahilig tayo mag-Netflix, no? There's a TV series on Netflix called The New Amsterdam. And the doctor there, yung bida, sabi niya dun sa episode 1 nung season 1 ng ng New Amsterdam, sabi niya. I-meeting niya yung mga doctor, sabi niya, what do you need? Anong kailangan natin para mag-improve yung ating services? And kaya ko lang naalala tuloy ito, Rick, kasi I think that's a good uh, pinaka best thing that our government officials should think about. They should ask themselves or ask their constituents that question all the time. Ano kailangan natin? What do we need to improve our situation? Because if we have that type of attitude, madali nang aksyonan eh. Kasi alam mo yung iyong purpose, yung iyong intention is good. Because you're asking the right questions. And the most important question is, what can we do to better our situation? If you stop asking that question, then there's a problem with you. And in the same vein, in the same manner, our the public, our viewers, our netizens should also start asking the question, what can I do to improve our situation? Di ba? How can you contribute to this big problem that the country is facing? Yun yung pinaka-importanting questions that people should ask. on the part of our leadership and the part of the general population, the public. What can I do to better our situation together? And you know what? Everything will just fall into place, including proper communication lines between the government, the private sector, the hospitals, the frontliners, the OFWs, our viewers, even the other countries who have the vaccine. If we ask the right questions, attitude comes, follows suit. Yung ating attitude becomes the right attitude when it comes to dealing with COVID-19. So with that, siguro guys, final shoutouts na before we go. I'd just like to thank, of course, si Angelo Yambao. Sabi niya, 5 new cases daw is to introduce the vaccine. Kaya ang pinagkakalat ng dilawan. At yun na rin, final words ko na rin is to tell the Vice President to shut the F up. Yun yung sabi ni Presidente, shut up. Shut the fuck up, VP. Daldal ka lang ng daldal, hindi ka naman nakakatulong. Hindi mo nga naiintindihan yung sitwasyon eh. Tapos nakakaya yung mga pinagsasabi mo in public. So yun, that's all I wanted to say. Mikel?
Yeah, well, thank you. Nice to see you guys again, and thank you to everybody who watched, especially those from all over the world. It's good to be back. Welcome distraction from all the stress. Nasabi naman namin lahat na, no? But hope and pray lang, guys, na please, everybody do your part. As I tell my team all the time sa Auntie Ans na we really can't control what's happening around us, but what we can control is what we do and how we behave. No? So kahit sawa ng ibang tao sumunod sa protocol, tayo susunod pa rin tayo. Kasi it just takes one person to screw that up. Diba? If you know, one store lang maging lax, lahat sila mahawa, we close that place and it affects so many people. That's how we always do it. We have to fight for ourselves, and the same sa inyo, sa mga bahay nyo. You cannot control yung kapitbahay mong tangang pasaway. You can control your own house and how you guys interact and behave.
Yeah.
If you know, like the government said, you can see your relatives, you can see your friends. Wear your mask. Observe social distancing when you do, di ba? Yun lang naman eh. Kami, we've made huge sacrifices. Kahit yung in-laws ko, my own parents, I haven't seen my family in over a year. And you know, and sometimes, syempre, magagalit na yung mga mas matatanda. They want to see you. I built a whole side dito sa house namin na parang outdoor lang para kung magkikita kami ng 1 hour or so dyan lang sa labas. You know, obviously not everybody has that luxury, but it means that much to me to follow those protocols so that I can keep my elder family or my vulnerable people safe. So sana lahat tayo maging ganun, sumunod tayo sa mga binibigay. Kasi nga, ang tendency natin palagi is to blame government or find somebody else to blame for your problem. But a lot of times, the problem is also caused by you. Okay, so you know, don't expect, alam mo nang minsan walang kwenta yung LGU, alam mo nang minsan walang kwenta yung government in certain parts, so wag ka nang aasa. Do your part and educate your friends, educate your relatives. More people get educated about this, we'll do our part, and then when the next elections come along, we can vote for the right people. Hopefully we can support constitutional reform. Nice, pinag ko pa rin yung constitutional reform kasi that's
Nice
badly
one.
needed. Badly needed, you know. So hopefully we learn from our mistakes. Sana lang now, guys, makita nyo 5,000 cases plus a day. Hospitals are full. This is not a joke. This is not a conspiracy. I have friends who are sick. I know people who have died. So I know for a fact hindi to joke. Okay? So yun lang. Ingat tayo, guys. Follow the protocols. And thank you to all our frontliners who are very valiantly fighting this again for us.
Yun. Eric man. Si Mr. Island Traveler. Or
Laagan.
COVID spreader.
So solo traveler. Solo
traveler. Buti hindi ka nakidnap ako sa Epic.
Hindi. Magsisisi sila sa akin. Babalik nila ako. Sa inyo na yan. Actually, I think nasabi na ninyo lahat ng gusto kong sabihin. It's just really being careful out there, no? I know na sabik na tayo to be out there, to be experiencing life again, no? Normally. But really, there is no way to experience life right now except the new normal way. Na dapat naka-mask ka, dapat naka-social distance ka, and you can't really go to places na crowded because the risk is really so high. So it's really up to us, no? Kung anong gagawin natin moving forward. We know that cases are up. There's this new variant, na UK variant, may Philippine variant pa na highly contagious and everything. So what are you gonna do, right? You're, I mean, you can only complain so much. I mean, we're allowed to complain. But if you complain all the time, ikaw na yung problema, right? So, I guess you really have to act on it and act on it as what is being prescribed by the government, whether it's national or local. And pakinggan nyo lang si Ron, tsaka yung DOH. Di ba? I mean, hindi naman, we're not really spreading fake news here or mga opinions lang namin. But it's really based on what the government is telling us and what really is the practice now. Kaya nakakaano yung sinabi ni Michael, parang, I know some people nga na hanggang ngayon, akala nila conspiracy ang COVID. Parang, oh my God. Nasaan ba sila nagtatago? What kind of rock are they hiding under? Diba? Parang,
pag nainis tayo, gagawa tayo ng shame campaign courtesy of Istoryang Futbolero. I-post natin yung mga pictures nila na nagyayabang na nagpa-party sila.
Huwag naman. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Mga main kalaban natin dyan. Mga mayayaman, yari tayo sa mga yan.
Oo nga, mayayaman yung mga yan eh. So, wala tayong magagawa. But in any case, yun lang guys. It's 1 year from the election. So, make sure that you choose your politicians wisely. Kasi nga, na-experience na natin ngayon eh. Last year pala, na-experience na natin kung gaano sila kakulelat. So, you know what to do. Tandaan na tayo. Lahat tayo may book na kilikili. So, ano na natin.
Basta huwag niyo makalimutan yung sabi na pag nakita niyo may mga pangalan yung mga epalitiko. May mga pangalan na sila sa mga tarpaulin nila. Huwag niyo silang botohin sa susunod na eleksyon tatandaan ninyo. Importante 'yan. Yun yung mga sa listahan. Politicians that I shouldn't vote. Don't vote these people. Yun, pag may mga pangalan, councilor, so and so, project by, or brought to you by, sabi ni Mikel. Vaccine brought to you.
Kapalit ng boto, vaccine. Kapalit ng boto, diba? Vaccine na yan.
Tapos yung mga parating nagko-comment at nagpapa-interview sa media para lang may masabi. Tandaan yung mga pagmumukha na yan. Huwag niyong bobotohin sa 2022 yung mga yan. Alam niyo kung sino yung mga yan. Pag nakikita niyo may mga quote card yung mga TV5, ABS-CBN. Comment ni kunyari si Lenny, comment about sa ginagawa ng government. Tapos yung mga iba dyan, yung mga nakala mo dati kaalyado ng gobyerno o ni presidente, bigla na lang may mga sinasabi bigla ngayon. Wow, papansin. Kasi feeling nila, opportunity na maging mas responsable ang aking dating. Tatandaan yung mga pagpapapa na yan.
Tatakbo pala kami ni Ron pala. Wag botohin niyo po kami sa
Kagawan!
Party list. Istoryang Futbolero party list.
Yun. So, guys, maraming salamat. Sa Wednesday, si Mark Lopez ang nandito sa Istoryang Futbolero. If Mikel and Eric are free, please join us. Si Mark Lopez, matagal na nating hindi nakakasama si Mark Lopez. Maraming mga kwento sa atin yun. Ngayong Wednesday. At hindi natuloy si Franco Mabanda. Dapat last Wednesday yun. Medyo busy rin yung tao. At si Jam Magno will also be back here siguro a few weeks from now. She's been very busy. So yun lang. Maraming salamat. Enjoy your evening. Mikel, Eric, malapit na yung anniversary ng Istoryang Futbolero. Yung anniversary ni Mikel sa May 2.
Sulat ko na sa calendar ko, bro.
Pakisulat sa calendar mo, bro. Dapat meron kong special.
Padala nyo cake or something, flowers or cake or something.
Dapat may special outfit ka nun, Mikel. Dapat naka-Arsenal ka nun, tapos si Eric naka-Tottenham. Di ba? Para solid.
Wala lang kasya sa akin na jersey, guys. Sorry.
Yun nga eh. Yung sleeve, yung seam dito na.
Alam ko bakit merong psychological effect sa atin nitong pandemya. Kasi naginip na ako, naglalaro ako ng football kasama kayo. So actually, alam mo na talaga, apektado na talaga tayong lahat. Isang taon na tayo hindi naglalaro. Yun, meron nga man nagyayaya Mikel dito sa South. May
there's people who want to play already. Alam ako, naglalaro na 11 na side. Isa yun sa mga grupo ng mga alam ko, mga PASAWAY.
Sila naglalaro. Kilala
I don't participate.
Kilala rin ako ng PASAWAY. Matagal na siya PASAWay. I don't
participate.
Maraming salamat sa mga... ganun ba? Maraming salamat sa mga viewers. Maraming salamat sa mga viewers natin, si Chris, Angelo, and yung ating mga OFWs who are watching as well. Thank you so much, people from the States, from Canada, from Europe. Meron tayong mga viewers from Italy, surprisingly. Also from the UK. Thank you so much. If it's not for you, if it weren't for our OFWs, medyo mas mahirapan siguro tayo dahil sa mga remittances. We have stayed afloat. We have dollars still coming in. So thank you so much to our OFWs. Kayo yung mga bagong bayani. Okay, we will always root for you, pray for you. And hopefully once the Philippines talaga becomes that rich country, you guys will all come back and work here in the Philippines. So that's our goal. Our end zone.
Kailangan natin ng reforms. Bago mangyaring maging rich country ang Philippines, kailangan natin ng reforms sa constitution natin.
Supportahan po ninyo yung efforts ngayon sa Congress na baguhin yung economic provisions ng ating konstitusyon para mas maraming foreign direct investment pumasok sa ating bansa. All right? So, guys, maraming salamat. Stay safe always. Bida solusyon. Bawal ang walang mask. Sanitize ang mga kamay. Iwas hawak sa mga kung anong bagay. Distansya ng 1 metro. Alamin ang totoong impormasyon. Huwag po tayo magkalat ng fake news. At tawanan na lang natin si VP pag nagko-comment sa social media. Huwag tayong masyadong maimbierna sa mga pasaway at mga e-politiko na sumasakay sa isyong COVID-19. Good night, everyone.
Stay safe, guys.
See you guys again soon. Stay safe. Bye. Go Liverpool. Yay.